A very good morning to all of you. Hope you all are doing well. Last time I have told you about different parts of a flower in which we have discussed receptacle, stamen, carpel and sepals and petals. Today we will start with pollination. Children, you are already knowing what is pollination, right? But let's try to recall it again. So, what is basically a seed? Seed is nothing but the reproductive unit for the formation of a plant. Okay, like from seed only the complete plant will grow. Now, seed consists of two things. It consists of embryo and enough food. What for this food is present? Food is present for the growth and nourishment of the embryo which is present inside the seed. Now, seed will turn into a plant whenever there are favorable conditions. Favorable condition means whenever it gets into proper amount of light, water, etc. Okay. Now, formation of seed is a two-step process. Okay. Formation of seed is a two-step process. First one is pollination and second one is fertilization. Now let us first of all see what do you mean by pollination. Children, as I have already told you that the main reproductive part is stamen and here it is carpel. So what is pollination? Transfer of pollen grains. Transfer of pollen grains from anther of stigma to the from anther of stamen to the stigma of carpel is nothing but pollination. I repeat, transfer of pollen grains from anther of stamen to the stigma of carpel, which is female reproductive part, is nothing but pollination. Okay, you are knowing that plants cannot move by themselves. So how will this pollen grains get transferred from anthers to stigma? They will be transferred by some of the agents like honeybees, butterflies, birds and insects. Okay. Now, there are two types of pollination. One is self-pollination and another one is cross-pollination. Self-pollination, the word itself tells self. Okay. So, self means on the same flower. That is, the pollen grains are transferred from anther of stamen to the stigma of carpel of the same flower. That is nothing but self-pollination. Whereas cross-pollination is different. It will require two flowers. Okay. So here anthers of one flower will, like the pollen grains from anther of one flower will get transferred to stigma of another flower. That is nothing but cross-pollination. I hope you have understood what is self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self-pollination means transfer of pollen grains on the same flower, whereas cross-pollination means transfer of pollen grains from one flower to another flower. Now, as I have already told you, there are some agents who will transfer this pollen grains. So, what are those agents who will transfer the pollen grains? Insects, birds, water, and most common you are knowing is wind. Okay. So, how will these insects transfer the pollen grain? Now, you are knowing that various insects like honeybees, butterflies, they sit on the flower. For what purpose? For sucking the nectar. Okay, and when they sit on one flower for sucking the nectar, these pollen grains get stick to their legs. The same honeybees, same butterflies, now they go and sit on different flowers. So what happens there? These pollen grains get transferred on the another flower. This is how the pollen grains are transferred from one flower to another flower by the insects. Now this is being done by birds also. There are some birds like hummingbirds or sunbird which are very small. but their beaks are very long, is it not? So what happens? They also sit on the floor for the same purpose, for sucking the nectar. And for sucking the nectar, what they do? They pick their beak inside the flower and for sucking the nectar. So at that time what happens? These pollen grains, they stick to their beak. Now the same birds, they sit on another flower. At that moment, these pollen grains which are sticking to the beak of this birds will get transferred on the another flower. Now next is water. Water, you are knowing that transfer of pollen grains will take place by water. In which plants? Those plants which are floating on water or which are growing inside the water. And obviously transfer pollen grain by winds, you are knowing who will carry? Air current. Okay, but whenever air will move, these ruptured pollen grains, remember, normal band, good healthier bands, pollen grains will not flow off so easily. Okay, but the ones, the pollen grains which are ruptured one, those pollen grains, they will be carried away by the air current from one flower to another flower. In this way, the pollen grains are transferred from anthers of one flower to the stigma of another flower. Okay, so this is all about pollination. Now we move on with the second step where the formation of seed will take place, which is nothing but fertilization. What is fertilization, children? Fertilization is basically fusion. Fusion of what? Fusion means mixing. Mixing of male gamete with the female gamete to form an embryo is nothing but fertilization. Okay? And you are knowing that the first step of formation of seed is pollination. So now what step have we have reached till? Now the pollen grains are now sticking to the stigma of the flower. Here the pollen grains which are there on the stigma, okay, when they fall on the stigma, what happens? The stigma bursts, it opens, okay, and when it opens up, when it bursts off, what happens? A pollen tube starts developing. When this pollen tube starts developing, it will start moving down, okay, till what? Till through the style, and will finally reach till the ovary where female gamete is present. Let me tell you one more thing, that this pollen grains will carry the male gamete. Knowing the children, have a look at the figure. I will tell you from here. This is the male gamete which is present inside the pollen grain. Okay, this male gamete will move through the pollen tube. This is the pollen tube. This male gamete will move through the pollen tube, and finally this pollen tube will grow and will reach into the ovary where the female gamete is present. Okay, and here the mixing up of male gamete with the female gamete will take place, which will form up a zygote. This is nothing but fertilization. Okay, male gamete will move down to the pollen tube, and finally fusion will take place, which will result in the formation of embryo, which will help in the development of a seed.